Okay, so welcome into Philadelphia Walks PTSD. My name is Sharon Cole, or Sharon or Cole, whatever you want to refer to me as. Doesn't matter, in a good way, don't care. So here we are on day 97 of my one video each day, 365-day campaign raising money for life lost, robbed, stolen, tortured, raped, and you name it. I don't even know what to say. I thought the CIA came in and decided just to shake up the entire universe, but I happen to be kind of, and not in a narcissistic way, at the center of whatever this was. This sort of perfect storm or maelstrom or whatever you want to call it, this malintended city of Philadelphia, filled with people who were willing to play a very serious and dangerous game. It all kicked off the fourth Monday of January 2011. I was made to believe that I would be murdered in my apartment. I called the police after calling my sister. Anyway, I was convulsing, trembling. It turns out when you're scared to death, your entire body and muscles go limp. And you can't speak. There's no we see, I guess for people who watch horror films or whatever, you would assume that people can scream in order to save themselves. In my case, nothing would come out of my throat. It was like I was stunned into a frozen but trembling, convulsing wreck. Couldn't even hold the phone. It took me a while to finally call my sister, and so forth and so on. So the next day, I tried to call my mom and aunt, and what do I get? We're sorry, the number you're trying to reach has been disconnected. And in fact, when I finally was able to get a hold of them, thanks to my sister and her getting the number of a cousin who had the cell phone number of my aunt, who left her phone on for this purpose. I didn't talk to my mom every single day, so they probably figured oh, no one's trying to reach us today. They did say that the actual cord that, of their landline that you would see on the outside of someone's house was actually cut and pulled away from the house, as far as I understand it. So that's pretty scary because they lived all the way down in Jacksonville, Florida at the time. They would later move a little bit north to Gainesville, Florida. But anyway, if that weren't enough, I forgot to mention, I did try to call my dad also. And when I called my dad, I got an outgoing message with his voice on the voicemail, which would mark the first time in history of my dad and his second wife of many years, Barbara, having an actual recorded outgoing message with either one of their voices. They always had that robotic, automated sound voice. So for the first time ever, so this was highly unusual. My dad's voice was actually saying, "We're not at home right now." And all of this culminated to me realizing very quickly, whoa, the term set up didn't come to my mind, but I just knew this was really wrong. There's too many things going on. So I guess I would have thought of set up or someone did this on purpose. So anyway, with that said, and if that weren't enough, after the fourth Monday of January 2011, games commenced, and this city was filled to the brim with people who were playing some sort of mobbing, orchestrated harassment, organized stalking game. I did wonder, because there were so many people, if the people who really do it didn't know that there were people who were infiltrated in their own groups, willing to show how it works to someone in the sky. I have no idea. But what I'll talk about today on day 97 is one example of me freaking out, because how would people know my business in order to carry out these acts? And these acts would show that they know your business. But one of the things that would happen, and this is why my mom was visiting me, because I dragged on the fourth day of all of this, after this all began, I was so scared and freaking out constantly because there's all kinds of weird stuff going on the streets, blizzards, snow, everything. On top of that, I begged my mom to come up, and I dragged her up here, which I would never do because people didn't really have a lot of money. And as people get older, I would have visited her in a normal situation, but I was afraid to not work. So I dragged her up to Philadelphia. But anyway, while she was there and while I was in extremely heightened PTSD, anxiety, shaking, trembling constantly, I kept looking things up on the laptop, um, which stems back to me having learned a little bit about different types of stalking prior to this event. And it's because things were happening prior to 2011, but I kept sloughing it off as sort of like, okay, that it's almost like things had to build up to a head and then explode. But I kept leaving different job places where I worked because of odd activity, and also I would go to a coffee shop and people would kind of um, talk about, like, they would have loud projected conversations to imply that they knew my business, or they would be incredibly coincidental and mirroring like my own personal life or the personal life of my family members or what have you. So it got really weird. Like, that's weird. What's that? So, uh, leading up to 2011, I did actually learn about the term gang stalking, but I didn't know what to make of it. It was on a website of Ted Gunderson, a former FBI agent who's now deceased. And I thought the website had all these like flashy things. It was an old website that he would have made himself. And I was like, I don't know what to believe. So I kind of put everything to the back of my mind and just kept moving forward. Then everything exploded the fourth Monday of January 2011. And I would continue looking up stalking, or what is this? I kept trying to like figure out like, what could this possibly be? Find meaning to what was going on. And I found this researcher from Sweden, I believe, and his name is, he's now deceased also, Heinz Lehmann. And when I think of Heinz, I think of Heinz Ketchup. And the thing is, he was researching mobbing, workplace bullying, stuff like that, and how this phenomenon sort of occurs, or what's going on sociologically, psychologically, and also within the orchestrated minds of people who do gang up on people on purpose. So, and consciously do this. Anyway, after I read that, I sort of read it out loud to my mom. And I was like, look at this. This is what it is. This is what it is. And the next day I would get an email from someone who I had been volunteering with. And I had emailed him a couple days prior, I think, because I kept reaching out trying to find people to see if anyone had an answer or could help. And he had an email saying, we'll have to catch up. And he used the word ketchup instead of catch up. So that kind of made me freak out, because it's like, I actually freaked out quite a bit, because it made it seem like that person who I contacted, who I liked as a person, and at the time before, prior, leading up to trusted, to me, it came across as a scare, like, a mocking, and, oh, I know your business. I know you looked up this person. And I was like, could he hear me talking about Heinz Lehmann? Or did he know my activity on my laptop? There's a million things to go along with this. Also, Heinz Ketchup, and this year was Super Bowl 57, and Heinz 57 was always a label for many years. I don't know if they still use 57 in their label. We also have a Physique 57 here. But anyway, I didn't know what to make of this person whose last name was Douglas. His first name started with a K, but I volunteered with him through a group called Team Philadelphia, which handled all the LGBTIQ sports teams. They were sort of an umbrella group that would, sort of have events or buy T-shirts so that everybody could wear T-shirts for Pride Parade or whatever, or special events like the Dragon Boat Race team. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today, this Heinz situation. And I was freaking out all over the place. There were a lot of things going on simultaneously. And he was one of probably 72,000 things going on that very week or that day to pile on to the fear and this bizarre, inexplicable activity. All kinds of things were going on to freak me out. I even, that same week, I even had like a minute where a message kept being sent to my head of, God, just move on already. You're dead. And, you need to wake up and realize it's time to cross over. I actually was like, am I actually like not alive? And people are trying to tell me to cross over. But I had a Pico energy bill on my table. And because of that bill, it's like, well, Pico thinks I'm supposed to pay this bill to keep my utilities on. So I must be actually alive. But it was so bad what happened. So many things were going on that it's like, am I supposed to move through the ethereal realm or what? So, and forever, whoever these people are who can create the conditions, or even send a message through telephone wires to your brain or something, um, they can make it seem as if you keep failing the test. And it's like, they are actually sick, sadistic people who make it seem like you're supposed to know. Um, what's going on, and you're supposed to get it. You're supposed to get it. These people would never pass their own test. So anyway, have a great day, and anticipation, right? Speaking of Trump situation coming up, but who knows how long that'll take before his court date arrives. But anyway, with that said, always seeking donors to help me try to live a life. These people do actually know how to obstruct someone from being able to function normally. And Philadelphia seems to be a high criminal in that area, because I have had many different types of jobs here, and I don't know what to say. Okay, it's pretty bad. Thank you.